Federation to this new.
The permanent secretaries, the IL representative, thank you very much for being here. And it gives me much pleasure. I was actually very interested in your acronym YEC. So I know it's an animal, spelled with a Y-A-K. So I very quickly did a Google search on it. And YEC, those of you may not know, is actually a large cow, very large cow, that lives in very colder climates. And they start sort of hyperventilating if they get above anything below above 15 degrees centigrade. They love cold weather. But it's a feature of YEC. It says YECs are highly friendly in nature and can be easily trained. So perhaps that's what the organization is about, and that is your exposure to training and getting exposure to other entrepreneurs who can help you. I was very glad when I received the invitation a few weeks ago by Nesbitt, in the invitation to attend this function. We are very much keen about helping, assisting, collaborating with, and of course tapping into the resources, in particular the ideas and the visions, and the very specific intellect that many of the young entrepreneurs have. Whether they want to start off as entrepreneurs themselves on their own, or whether they want to go and work initially and then come out and do business on their own. I think both groups of people need to be assisted. As you can see in the budget that was announced, we have a huge focus on giving people access to skill sets. And those skill sets access are being facilitated through the budget, if I can speak specifically about it, through the very generous tax deductions that government has given to employers who would employ people who, for example, are studying, and as part of their course requirements, they actually have to get practical experience. And we know a lot of people did not get that experience. Many employers weren't willing to take them on. So now they will be readily be available to take them on because of the fact that they get a 200% tax deduction on the salaries that they pay to these, people. We call it workplace apprenticeship, workplace schemes. We went ahead further and said, even if it's not part of your workplace, even if it's not part of your course requirement, and for example, if I may be studying, say, accounting, and I may be quite, resourceful. So maybe I have 2 days I don't have lectures. So if I go off and find part-time work at an accounting firm or any other company that may need the services of, say, an accounts clerk or doing book entries or data entry, etc., that's related to my study, they also get a 200% tax deduction if they employ you. So by the time you've actually finished your course, you would have had practical experience. So it makes you a lot more employable. Who knows, it actually may make you start up your own business, because you have all the fundamentals and you have the knowledge skill sets that's required for you to start your own business. Disability, of course, has been mentioned too in the earlier speeches. And again, we have said that we need to give opportunities to many what we call disabled people. I mean, I've seen many people who've been categorized as disabled. In fact, they're very, very able, and much more able than people who are supposedly able. In fact, 2-3 weeks ago, when we had the public consultations, we met a young man who was at the public consultations. He was completely deaf, so he could not speak. But he did sign language, and he worked at a printery shop where he was being paid far less salary than others were working there, but he did the same job. He did not require, the skill set was not for him to be able to hear, for him to be able to do the job. He simply needed to do the job with his hands and the rest of his limbs and use his mind. And also when, for example, he got sick, they would not pay him sick leave. So these are the kind of things we need to ensure that we are able to tap into those resources. I have met people who are also completely blind, but they're completely sharp in their mind and they can contribute. So purely from a commercial, financial perspective, if you are not tapping into the resources of these people, you're actually depriving ourselves, depriving the organization, depriving the economy, depriving our society of this intellect, of this skill set that we could otherwise be using if we weren't discriminating against them. So this is essentially giving the incentive to employers to hire disabled people, and you get a 300% tax deduction. We're also saying that if an employer employs you, and if you're the first time employee, this is your first time job, then they also get a tax deduction for that, a 200% tax deduction. On the other hand, once you start working, and your employer may feel that you're very good, you're very good at your work, and they want you to contribute even further and climb up the ladder, but you need particular training, they may send you to university to do a part-time course, or send you to technical college to do a part-time course, and they'll pay for you to do that. Once they pay for you to do that and you finish your course, whatever amount of money they've paid, they can also claim that as a tax deduction of 150%. So again, we are incentivizing employers to actually train their people. So these are very good incentives, and we've already received a lot of positive feedback on that. The other area I think that is very critical, that was announced in the budget, and that was that we have seen that there are many ministries that do have some form of incentives, some form of programs that are related to encouraging entrepreneurship or providing entrepreneurship skill sets or some training or some form of financial assistance, but it's all done individually. Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Women, Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Industry and Trade. So the reality is sometimes you can have a duplication. You don't necessarily get the efficiencies that needs to be built into such a scheme, in particular when you have limited resources. So as announced on the budget, we are going to set up a national body that will address all of the issues that need to be addressed for a person or individuals or groups of individuals who need assistance as far as micro enterprises are concerned, small to medium enterprises are concerned. And in time to come, we'll soon be making the various announcements as to how it will sit. It needs to have a regulatory framework, it needs to have a legal framework for it to be enforceable. There are some models that one can look at. The Malaysians have got a relatively good model where they have a national council that's essentially driven by policy, which may include the Prime Minister and various other members of Cabinet. But then the operational side, you actually have a board that will include, say, people from Fiji Employees Federation. It could involve people from the Reserve Bank, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, and various other people. And then they provide various facilities that is critical. One of them, of course, being financial. You need access to finance. The other one is, of course, mentoring, where people need to be mentored. You have, working with organizations like the Fiji Employees Federation. You can provide mentoring through ILO and various other organizations. Then you, of course, have business incubation. You need to have people who may come up with new ideas that may not have been dealt with before, may not have been tried before in Fiji. So you need to give them the trial run. So there needs to be some funding allocated to that. Who knows, with some incubation and with the hand-holding that goes on after that, you may actually strike a very, very good business that has not been done in Fiji. The other one, of course, is to provide the skill sets. So you have a whole range of services and facilities that's available that will encourage the young entrepreneurs, that will encourage generally entrepreneurs to be able to get into that area. In Fiji, generally, what has been seen is that, to call a spade, most of the people think that being a young entrepreneur is something that is limited to only a handful of people. Either whether your family has got a business and you become a young entrepreneur and then take the business up to the next level, or alternatively, you become an entrepreneur when later on in life, maybe in your 40s and 50s, then you get into the business area. So that we want to change that way of thinking. And we also know that there are many young people, a lot of good ideas, but they don't necessarily have the support. They don't necessarily have the support, whether it's finance, or once they even get finance, whether in terms of how to handle finance. As it's said, that some people are very good with ideas, they're not necessarily good with money. So you need to be able to provide them with that level of support. Similarly, we've seen that you need to have the right regulatory framework. One of the major issues that is very critical to ensure that you give young people the leg up, a lot of people's legs actually get chopped off even before they start. And I'll give you an example, which has really been in the public space. The Data Bureau. I know many young people that came to me and said that their names were actually in the Data Bureau when it should not be there, or because they owed a very small amount of money, they defaulted with the $50 here or there, and then their name was in the data bureau. Now, so even before they have a good idea, the doors are shutting up on them everywhere. They go to FDB, they go to some small bank, they go to some, one of those high interest paying, finance facilitators. All the doors are closed. They cannot move. Brilliant ideas, but nowhere to go. So this is also one of the reasons why we actually brought about this regulatory framework to ensure that reporting of credit is done in a very, proper manner, is done with all the bells and whistles and all the checks and balances that ensures that people don't unfairly get reported against credit or credit defaults. So people get looked after. There is a threshold. You don't simply get reported just because you owe somebody $100. The minimum threshold now is $300. So these are the sort of areas that we have looked at and provided the framework. And we actually look forward to in the next 3 months, we hope to develop a framework that will be suitable for Fiji, that will require all the stakeholders to be consulted in the next few weeks. The Ministry of next 3 months, the Ministry of Industry and Trade will be going out and talking to all the stakeholders and see how best a facility we can put in place that will not only have the legal framework, but also have the very practical framework that will be able to provide assistance to young entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs generally. The quote that I've been using, we want our youth not only to be job seekers, but also to be job creators. That was actually not my quote. As I've said previously, that's a former president of India, President Kalam, who said that our youth, to paraphrase him now, they are basically the engine of growth in any society, and they provide the fuel, they provide the fire. And to directly quote him, he said, our youth should not be only job seekers, they should be job creators. And we really believe that. We really believe that the youth of this country can be the job creators. And you may become a job creator, maybe not immediately after leaving university or a technical college, immediately leaving after high school, but very soon after that you can become the job creator. And I'd like to thank the Fiji Employees Federation for taking up this initiative. I'd like to thank the ILO also for the assistance they've provided them. We intend to also work with a number of other agencies like the UNDP. We've had some informal discussions with them. They have a program, and it was brought to our attention, and this is very, very true, that there's so many people in Fiji who are in the informal sector who we don't actually count as part of mainstream economy. And I normally talk to people. I stop, if you go down here to Matintar just before McDonald's, you see all these young men and sometimes selling lobsters or some of them selling coconuts. I normally stop at Korovislo, people selling coconuts. Some of them, some days they make $150 a day selling coconuts. Sometimes they may make $20 a day. Now, they have not actually been mainstreamed. How do we take them up to the next stage? Will they be selling coconuts now for the rest of their lives? The next 10, 15 years? What do we do and how do we help them with their savings or with the money that they make from selling those coconuts? Is it that you get a good windfall and you bring 2 more cartons of beer? Or is it that you go and spend it on something else that may not actually last? How do we get them to do the savings? These are very critical issues that we need to tap into. And this is part and parcel of what we are thinking of doing in the next few months in terms of addressing to actually formalize people who are in the informal sector without it being too rigorous a process to formalize them. And that is really quite critical to ensure that the people who are in the informal sector, they become part of the formal sector without making it too difficult for them to be formalized. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of things, of course, we can talk about. I'm quite happy to take any questions that's not out of kilter, to be able to address any issues that you may have, and I'm quite happy to do that now. But be rest assured that government is very much working in respect of addressing those issues pertaining to providing assistance to the youth in terms of developing the skill sets to be able to be job creators. Also, I think that some of the surveys are somewhat skewed. As you know, the RBF, right up till now, when they do the assessments, and also the Bureau of Statistics, when they look at how many jobs have been created, they only look at job advertisements in the Fiji Times. They don't look at job advertisements in the Fiji Sun. We've also said to them to look at the advertisements in the Fiji Sun, because as you know, government, for example, only advertises in the Fiji Sun. So, and there are other organizations I know that also do only advertise in the Fiji Sun. So we need to be able to look at a better measurement in terms of the job positions that have been created. I think the other issue that is also very critical is to be able to ensure that even as you have become young entrepreneurs, and if some of you have your own businesses, to be able to invest in the people who work for you. Please do not mistreat them. Don't pay them below the legal salary or wages that's due to them. You'll find that if you pay people the right way, in the correct manner, the legal manner, and if you provide a work environment that is suitable and conducive for them to come to work too, you'll find that you get better productivity. At the same time, you must appoint people based on merit, even for your own business, as we've been saying with government. If we don't appoint people based on merit, we won't get the runs on the board that you require. You won't get the tries that you want scored. You'll never reach the finish line. You'll never reach the try line. The same way with your business. You must hire the best person for the position that you have. Otherwise, you'll be missing out on the person who should have got the job, would have given you the best output. And that is very critical. And I think in Fiji, there's still a lot of room and a lot of space available for merit-based appointments. And in the civil service, we've already rolled that out, where we want to be able to employ people, and indeed people are now being appointed based on merit. And if you can do that, because everybody has some particular skill set, and sometimes that skill set is not necessarily suitable for one position that you may advertise. It may be suitable for other positions. So please understand that, and please also understand that if we are able to look after your staff, you'll always find they'll do a lot more than what they're supposed to do. So with those few words, I'd like to once again congratulate FCEF, high and low. Thank you very much for your participation, and we very much appreciate your collaboration, not just with FCEF, but also with government. We look forward to working with you in many other projects. I'd like to thank, of course, the President and the various people who are here to participate in this launch. Hunaka, and I wish you a good day. Thanks.